All right, I'm here, and it's been a minute. I'm broke, so I've been busy trying to fix that. But we're here now to talk about this. I wanted to go ahead and just kind of post something of a little bit of a thought post. Um, so basically, I just want to talk on good card design and what I think Konami should do going forward when they're implementing new cards with pretty strong effects. And I think Evolzor Lars is a prime example of what a good card going forward should look like. A good generic card, I should say. Because it's obvious that this card is supposed to belong to the evil line of reptile dinosaurs that then evolve into dragons. And it fits perfectly with that. Um, in that its effect gives you a benefit if you were using reptiles and dinosaurs for it by allowing you to use two negates on the card compared to one if you're not using it. So what this does is it allows for other decks to still use a generic boss monster. So as you can see here for my Heradic decks that is mainly going into level sixes, um, there's this very annoying, and it even happened in a duel when I was just kind of messing around and it brought on this whole entire discussion when I activated my reasoning and I summoned out my Psyframe Driver, which is level 6, which if Heradic Dragon King was two level 6 monsters, that wouldn't be a problem. But because it's two level 6 dragon monsters, I essentially just bricked on my reasoning, despite the fact that there are several other targets that, would work just fine. And that's why I included this card in there because it's generic. So if that does ever happen, I'm not without a play and I can instead still XYZ and at least have a negate on board. And I think this is a really good design. And I think a lot more cards should lean more into this and further design with this kind of behind it. So that way you can still use cards like Barone and Borolo Savage Dragon, but instead of having these Omni negates that any deck can access, maybe make it to where, let's say, Baronne de Fleur. And the reason I'm using her is because that was an evolution of a card, and I'm not too sure many people know about it, but there is Chevalier de Fleur, which was a lot harder to summon. But essentially, it was a spell trap negate for your turn. So what I would say if you wanted to balance a card like Baron de Fleur and still make it to where it's like, okay, well, any deck can use it, but the floor deck could benefit even higher from it would be giving it sort of like a similar feel here, where Baron de Fleur, if just used generically, has a quick effect to negate any spell or trap. Just, much like this is an evolved form of it. But then when you use a warrior tuner or a non-warrior tuner for whichever way you want to go about it, you then get the added bonus effect of being able to negate a monster effect, so then it becomes the true omni negate. That way, if you're making level 10 synchros, if you don't need a spell trap negate, you won't play Baron de Fleur. And if you can make Baron de Fleur to get you to the monster negate, then you have that option. And if you do need a spell trap negate and you can make a level 10 synchro, you can still splash it in there. And I think that allows for the generic cards to still kind of feel like they're worth summoning in other decks, but not necessarily as powerful, without giving them the restriction like a floor synchron plus a non-tuner monster, because there's just no reason to do that. Especially when you have Stardust Dragon sitting right next to it with easily better effect, or you have your Red Dragon Archfiend, or the many variations of it that are just as generic with more attack power or more explosive damage. So when it comes to generic cards that belong to an archetype, I think that's a really good idea on where they should go. And if we were to also look at Borolo Savage Dragon, since I did mention it, so I might as well, talk about how even something like that would work. Where is it? All right, well, I'm blind. I notice all my accounts have Borreload, and I can't see it right now. I'm sitting down. So okay, I'm done being blind now. All right. So with Borreload Savage Dragon, with it being generic, let's just say you use a rocket tuner for it. And what that would do is it's actually kind of difficult because Borreload Savage Dragon technically already has restrictions on it because you have to already have a Link monster engraved. Because I wanted to still be kind of on theme. Oh, perfect. Got it. I got it. So the whole entire strategy of rockets is that they destroy each other. So Borreload Savage Dragon should have that kind of drawback to it, where let's just keep it with the same effect and same requirements that it has right now, where you have to, synchro into it and equip it with a Link monster. You still got your Omni Negate, but upon resolution of using your negate, you got to pop one of your cards. Now, for a rocket deck, that's fine. They all plus when you destroy their own cards. They have advantages where if they're targeted by one of their monsters or something, some of them do, but if they're targeted, then they have like an extra effect that kind of pops off that allows them to do something where you can have this card be treated like a Link monster if it's targeting one of the rockets, so that way their effects can still trigger. Because they have stuff like where if you target it to pop it, you can look to the opponent's extra deck and banish the card. That way, you could still splash Borreload Savage Dragon into other decks, but there's a drawback in using it in another deck. So sure, you could play it in, let's say, Dragoonity, and you can summon it reliably. But when you're using the negate, whether on your turn or your opponent's turn, you need to have another card that you can destroy safely in order to utilize the negate. And so while that may mean that there could be some ways around it. So if you have like you generally have two negates with it. So that would mean popping the equip card, so he loses his attack power, and then popping itself if you have no other card on the field to pop, meaning that you have to kind of utilize some resources. You just can't throw this generic boss monster on the field without there being any drawbacks to it. And I think that's a design that would really work going forward with these generic monsters, where you want them to have these strong utility effects, but at the same time, you don't want it to where every deck fully utilizes it to its maximum potential if it's supposed to be an archetypal card. This way, it can still be generic. It can still be Borreload, and you can still play it in the rocket deck where it's designed. And in the deck that it's designed for, is going to benefit even greatly or greater. And in decks that it's not designed for, it's still good, but maybe your cards don't want to be destroyed. And now you have to think about, whether or not you want to include that or not. And same with the Barone example, where you get a bonus effect for using the right type of monsters to then get the full package of the card compared to just not, where Barone is right now, where just any deck, as long as you can splash it out, you just get that full effect. So I think this card right here, Evil Czar Lars, is actually just a really good designed card. And I think this should be the blueprint for boss monsters going forward, because it just kind of encapsulates that all. But let me know what you guys think. I wanted to just, again, make a short video, put this out there. I'm on my 15-minute break at work, and I'm about to hop off my break and get to work. Got to get that money. And yeah, I'll be catching you guys later.